Poi pendulums are so basic. Once you get past the beginner stuff, is there actually anything cool you can do with them at all? Why, yes, in fact there is. And in this video, I'm going to take you through 5 difficulty levels of pendulums because as it turns out, they will be with you for your entire flow journey. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And in this video, I'm going to show you just how challenging pendulums get as you increase your skill level. But before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Fire Mecha, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Pyroterra Light Toys, and Ultra Poi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links down in the description of this video. And special thanks to the non-business friend of the channel, Pekka Pekkonen. Thank you so very much for supporting my channel, my work, and my mission. So I've said it before, and I will definitely say it again. When it comes to pendulums, we underestimate their usefulness in the poi world. Seems kind of a simple idea, right? You're just letting the poi dangle back and forth beneath your hand. It's pretty much the simplest thing that you can possibly do with the poi, right? What's the big deal? As it turns out, this idea is deceptively simple, and I'm going to show you just how complicated it can get to swing the poi back and forth as you combine it with a variety of other different tricks. Real quickly before we dive in, if you like videos about poi spinning and flow arts, you are in luck because I make lots of videos on those topics. So if you wouldn't mind giving the channel a subscribe and hit the notification bell, you'll be the first to know when I upload a new video. It's good for you and it's good for me. Please and thank you. All right, so without further ado, let's dive in. Trick number 1, beginner, static pendulums. So real talk, this is such a simple trick, I'm not even sure that there's a real name for it. I just kind of made that one up. But this is a very, very important stepping stone and probably the first pendulum most people play with. Really, all you got to do here is dangle the poi back and forth beneath your hand. You can either do this with one hand or with both hands at the same time. This is probably the first pendulum that you pick up when you first pick up poi. And as simple as this seems, it actually is giving you information that is going to come in super handy for all the other tricks on this list too. Just to up the difficulty factor a little bit, you can try different phasings of this. Say having the poi swing back and forth together or in opposition. Or you can take this into a full arm pendulum, taking them around in bigger volume. All of this is going to help you with stuff further on in the list. And with our introduction to pendulums out of the way, let's go ahead and check out trick number 2, beginner intermediate, 1.5s. Fun fact, I've actually been in the poi world long enough that I know these were originally called 1.5s instead of 1.5s. Why the change? Well, as it turns out, YouTube's original text entry field for titles did not support the ability to put in either fractions or backslashes. So when people were first uploading videos of these tricks, they had to call them 1.5s instead of 1.5s, and it took off from there. 1.5s are a really critical step though. Not only is this one of the first caps that people learn, and most people are not even aware that it's a cap, but it also creates some of the most interesting opportunities that we have for transitions back and forth between different poi tricks. It also doesn't hurt that the aesthetics of 1.5s are such that they bring the poi heads together in such a way that looks really, really cool. I'll admit when I first learned them, what I really wanted was just to see the poi heads kissing as they were going past each other. But also too, it has to be said, 1.5s are probably the first time a lot of people are getting familiar with changing the momentum of the poi as they're performing a trick. Going back and forth between what is essentially a pendulum and what is 1/2 of a 2-petal in-spin flower, it takes some effort. And this is the first place we learn how to do that. Okay, so far nothing too crazy, but on this next one, we're going to ratchet up that level of difficulty a whole lot. Trick number 3, intermediate, horizontal stacking. Yeah, so this looks a lot different from the last 2 items on the list, doesn't it? But don't worry, the pendulums are still core to it. We just have to look a little harder to find them. Just like our 1.5s, horizontal stacks depend on us being able to change the momentum of the poi on a dime. Rather than going back and forth between a 2-petal in-spin and a pendulum, we're now going back and forth between top stalls and pendulums. And let me tell you, if you can manage that transition on a dime, you are doing a really, really, really good job of controlling both your stalls and your pendulums. Let's be real, it is super difficult to get perfect lines on these stacks, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And man, when we do nail those lines, Oh, it feels so satisfying. Cool, so with our last two patterns, we have been playing around with doing transitions back and forth between pendulums and another poi trick. But I think it's high time we got back into the world of pure pendulums and added a level of difficulty to them by adding in another type of poi trick too. Trick number 4, intermediate advanced. Isolated pendulums. So I can still remember the first time I saw my friend Charlie Cushing do these and just having it go through my head of how exactly does this work. So the thing is, both hands are moving through an isolated hand path. The difference is they're not putting enough energy onto the poi for them to go over the hand. And perhaps even more challenging, they're phased with the poi in such a way as to keep the poi within the width of that isolation too. And of course, you do it with both hands, split time going through that path, and it creates a really awesome pattern that makes it look like the hands are switching off which one is leading and which one is following. Give this one a try if you really want to put your isolations, your pendulums, and your anti-brids to the test. Wow! Okay, so we've played around with isolations, we've played around with caps, we have played around with a variety of different poi tricks, but there is one type of poi move that we haven't played with yet that is going to become important right now. And yes, that is the world of hybrids. Trick number 5, advanced. Pendulum versus Cateye. In all seriousness, this trick. So we shouldn't confuse this with the version of the trick where the hands are apart putting together an anti-brid, because that is a much more simple version of the trick. No, instead we are keeping the hands together, which means that we have to phase our pendulum and our cateye apart from each other rather than together. And no lie, this is really hard. It's kind of similar to syncing up the hands in that isolated pendulum pattern from our last entry, but the thing is, now that we're using a cateye instead of a pendulum for one of them, it means we have to change the speed at which we go through parts of the pattern, and that puts some pressure on that pendulum in really awkward places. My best advice on this one is just that pendulum hand has to go up a lot higher than you think it does in order to keep this clean. It also has to be said, I have a hard time sustaining this one for very long, but maybe you can show me up on it. So there we go, poi pendulums. Turns out there's a lot more to them than meets the eye. Did I forget your favorite pendulum-based trick? Leave me a comment and let me know what it was. This video and all the videos on this channel would not be possible without my amazing supporters on Patreon. In particular, I'd love to give a shout out to my Flow patrons who are listed on screen right now. Thank you all so much for your support. You rock. And if you out there watching are not currently a supporter, but you like the content that I make and you'd like to see me make more of it, easiest way to do that is sign up to support this work on Patreon. You can do that over at patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi, where you can also get access to some pretty awesome rewards. So, go check that out, support the channel, please and thank you. And if you just cannot get enough of that poi pendulum action, I did a whole video on the top 5 pendulum-based poi tricks that I think every poi spinner ought to know. I'll go ahead and link to that down in the description as well as up on screen. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to get out and flow yourself today, and I'll see you with a new video real soon. Take care now. Peace.